independence and wants to be independent. We want a permissive society. I want to do what I please, when I please, the way I please. I don't want to have to ask anybody. Don't want any responsibility and no accountability. I just want to be my own self, my own strong man. Learning that lesson. The God had in mind was to teach Paul the dangers of pride and the absolute essential spirit of humility. When we talk about having a servant spirit, what is a servant spirit but a spirit of humility? Willing to get down on the level of someone else and serve them. Devotion to them sometimes that we miss. A man, even in his devotion to Jesus Christ and his total commitment to him, can sometimes resort to depending on his own degree of devotion to God as a reason for God blessing him. God isn't going to allow us to depend on anything but him as a person. Not our ability, not even our faith, not even the degree of commitment we have to him. So what does he do? He just takes us every day and he just peels off another layer. He just keeps stripping us off and stripping us off and stripping us off, pruning us down, sanding us down, chiseling away, because God doesn't want to risk losing your influence and your testimony and your witness. So what does he do? He keeps the thorn there. When you notice the purpose in Paul's life, there are three words that you and I could write down. Number one is, first of all, humility. You see, God's purpose was that God's grace was sufficient for God to blame someone else in this given situation. And then the third thing is the inspiration. You see, Paul says that what at first would remove this thing, and then verse 9, he said, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Then Paul said, most gladly therefore will I rather glory in mine infirmities, that the pleasure in infirmities. What Paul discovered in his life was this: the very thing that at one time he wanted to have removed from his life became the motivation. It became the inspiration, because he knew whenever he was feeling the worst and the whole bottom dropped out, he knew that the mighty supernatural power of God was about to be released in his life. So that which was the weakness of his life became the inspiration. It became the thing that Paul began to bubble and be glad about. He says, I take of him. Deepen your intimacy with him, or have the problem or the weakness or the buffeting removed. And you wouldn't dare answer that quickly, because it depends upon what it is. He will say, get rid of the buffeting. And we have to decide if we had rather know God on a deeper level, or we'd rather have just a little ease, comfort, and pleasure. You see, we say, oh, you mean the unlimited? What is it doing in my life? Is it building me up, or is it tearing me down? And that will depend upon our under a little work. How many of us want to get away? The third thing I want you to notice, and I believe he learned this when God told him about his grace, that is the mighty strength of God. The mighty strength of God is constantly available. I want you to notice the word he uses here. He says in verse 9, most gladly therefore will I rather glory in mine infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me, abide upon me. You know what that says? It says that Paul lived